now. In the days leading up to the rally, 2 upper house candidates contacted us asking if they could speak. So in response to their requests, we've offered them each 2 minutes to make a statement about overdevelopment and where they stand on this issue. So let me first introduce William Bourke from the Sustainable Australia Party. William.
Thank you, Genya. Thank you to the organisers and for everyone turning out to our beautiful village. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful village called Crow's Nest. Now that's something we never want to have to say to our children and grandchildren, or for them to ever have to say. Politicians and developers are destroying our village. Sustainable Australia is an independent party from the political centre. We campaign for better planning to stop overdevelopment. Number 1, return real planning powers to local communities. How do you do that? You strip the government and these independent, unelected panels of their powers, and you return it through the local council, which represents the local community. We are also proposing to protect us from even local government politicians, citizen juries, to determine basic issues like height limits, setbacks and densities in their local communities by local council area. No politicians should be overriding the wishes of the community. Number 2, you must put in the infrastructure first before the new housing, okay? So it must have the new sports fields, the new hospitals, the new schools, the new public transport, not just another rail line through our community, which really gives us no benefit whatsoever. We have good public transport here, we want good public transport, but we already have it. So that is not necessary. What we really need is other infrastructure so we can get our children into school, etc. Thirdly, we must address the elephant in the room, the rapid population growth of Australia. We're growing at 4 times the average OECD level. We need to come back to normal, come back to what it was pre-John Howard. So we must address the big population issue. We must have the courage to have a discussion about that issue. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want our village to be destroyed. We need to stop overdevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you, William. And now I'd like to welcome Tyson Koh from the Keep Sydney Open Party.
Thank you very much for having me, Genya. And I'd like to pay my respects to the Camaragal and also to their elders past, present and emerging. Now, a lot of points have been made very eloquently, and I think it really sets out the plan of what the situation is and what we need to do. But this is what I want you to consider. That with this rapid development, they're not just paving over our parks and our schools and our homes, but they're actually paving over our cultural heritage and who we are as people and why we've come together. It's so much more than just about physical space. It's about our identity. And we're seeing this all over Sydney. We're seeing this, for example, just in the city, where the entertainment centre, so many gigs, the Moscow Circus, all these things that I used to see as a kid, and now there's a Lendlease 40-storey tower on there. It's ridiculous. And not just that, it's not just the development itself, but it's also the kinds of development too, and all of this really high density development. I mean, we're living closer and closer to our neighbours, yet we're getting more and more distant. And I think that through that whole process, Sydney really is losing its soul. And that's what's at the heart of this. It's not just about whether your views are being blocked, it's about us losing our soul as a city. Thank you. Now, we've all heard about this Opal Tower, right? That whole debacle going on at Homebush. And what we want to know is, please explain how the hell is a building like that allowed to be built? It's an absolute disaster. And get this, the same developer is being slated to also build something right at the site of the iconic Sirius building. Please explain of the highest order. So what I'd like you to think about very closely as we have a state election coming up is who you're going to give your vote to, because it's not just the developers, it's the government that allows them to build these buildings unchecked, and that's absolutely shameful. So we're a political party. I know William runs a political party as well. The Greens are here today and a few others. Really consider who you're going to vote for on March 23rd. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tyson. And as I explained earlier, David Shoebridge, who is representing the Greens today and is the Greens spokesman on planning, was delayed. So I'd like to now invite David up to say a few words.
Thanks as always, Genya, for the work you do in the community. Where you always, as a Greens MP, and I see a number of other independent councillors out in the crowd here today. I think we always try and work collaboratively, and it's great to see those, and some wonderful North Sydney councillors here as well, and the work you do. But I'll start by acknowledging that this land is Aboriginal land, and in fact, I'm sorry I was late, and I was late because I was over at the University of New South Wales speaking with the professors and the experts on water and First Nations peoples about how we need to fix the crisis in our river system, return water to the rivers, and end this addiction to big corporate cotton and actually save our rivers. So I'm sorry I was late, but I think that's an important statewide and national discussion. So I think I've got like 4 minutes to answer these 5 questions, and I'll do my best to knock them over. The first is there's widespread concern about the monstrosity that is planning in New South Wales. I've been fighting the planning system in New South Wales, hopefully on your behalf, for the last 8 and a bit years, and it's a bloody mess. But there is one simple solution that the Greens have always put and will always put at the front, which is returning planning powers to the community. That means no more planned precincts, no more priority precincts, no more state governments stepping over your local council and imposing misery upon you. It's about genuinely returning planning powers to the community, and that's about saying not only will we get rid of the current planned precinct that's proposed for here, and we will vote to scrap it in Parliament, that's 100% commitment. Not only will we get rid of all the other planned precincts that are destroying communities all around Sydney, but we want to change the law so it can't happen again. That's what we want to do. You see, you'll hear from other political players, they'll say, we'll scrap this, we'll scrap that, but they still want to keep all the power in the planning minister to just do it again when they get into power. We need to change the law. And instead of having those powers lie with the planning department and a minister, who can literally bypass Parliament to do this to you, we say those key strategic planning powers need to be returned to councils, and a regional organisation of councils is given the power and the statutory responsibility to come up with housing targets, to work out where the development can properly be situated, and to force the government agencies like transport and education and health to come to the table and commit to the infrastructure before another square metre of Sydney is upzoned. Because that's the answer we need. And when it comes to the 27-storey tower on the Crow's Nest Metro, what a disgrace that has been from the government. I'll tell you another thing the Greens believe in. It's truth in politics. And you can go down there now, finish this rally, go down and have a look at the montage that's outside the metro station. I'm sure you've seen it. A lovely 5, 6, 7-storey development with trees and happiness and smiling kids. Well, I believe in truth in politics. That's what I want. That's what the people of Crow's Nest want. Not a 27-storey tower, and their message has got to get to the Premier and the government. Truth in politics, truth in advertising. Don't lie and then deliver something else. Now, there have been some suggestions that the population in Crow's Nest can just magically increase, or St Leonard's and Crow's Nest can just magically increase by 100%. I don't believe that's feasible. I don't believe it's feasible. Because this is an area of Sydney that has already dramatically short on green open space. And I know council has been working, very hard to have some additional green open space, and you can go and see it. And I had the real advantage of a tour of Crow's Nest OVERdevelopment just in this last week, and the enormous scale of proposed development that's down the pipeline. I mean, it's just frightening. And then I was taken to that one little pocket park that council has managed to finally build down there, about 500 metres down there, shielded from the highway with a nice little sort of shielded wall and a bit of green, and a little bit of artificial turf, and that's the one bit of green open space that's been given back to the community, despite all the massive intensity of development. Well, that's not good enough. Crow's Nest, St Leonard's cannot support a 100% increase in population unless this government is somehow magically going to quadruple the amount of green open space, quadruple the amount of schools, and quadruple the amount of other supports that are here. It's not possible. Now, I don't believe in magic. And I actually don't much believe in the New South Wales Parliament. I've seen it up close. It's an ugly institution. And I'll let you in on a little secret. The closer you get, the uglier it looks. And New South Wales politics is owned by the development industry. And we saw in 2011 the current government come in and say they would change everything. They would return planning powers to the community. And they just made it worse. So when any politician stands up here and tells you with one voice that they're going to be returning planning powers to the community, and then with another hand takes money from developers at a federal level, or sits down with them to plan the future of your community and cuts you out, be very suspicious. And I believe there is one thing we must do if we're going to get integrity returned to the planning system, and it's crucial to hold politicians to their promise. We've had a Royal Commission into banks, and look at what it exposed. We had a Royal Commission into institutional child abuse, and look at what it exposed. But do you know what New South Wales needs fundamentally? It's a Royal Commission into planning to look at all the dark areas, all the cosy deals, expose them, finally lead us to a path where we do return planning powers to the community, we tackle climate change, and we change the way politics is done in New South Wales. Thanks very much.